Reports. 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 Document, a right to summon Great Prince Orobas, a transmission of Sean Thirlwell in conjunction with the Athenaeum Office of Magical Records and Experiential Reports. Regarding the report which follows was submitted by one Sean Thirlwell, a magician from South Africa, who reports a successful evocation of the demonic noble Prince Orobas of the Goetic court. The report was received on January 5 of the year 54, to a Facebook group which is operated and maintained by a primary steward of the Athenaeum, who is also a representative of the Luminous Order, Loop 3. The name of the group is LHP and Goetia. The magician professes a technique which strives maximally to adhere to the Solomonic standards put forth in the Keys of Solomon. The technique evidenced by the report uses correspondences in a consistent manner, and involves the intersecting of the summoned spirit's planetary ray with an adjacent sephirah in a manner consistent with the magician's expressed goals. See Athenaeum publication on the color scales of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life for more regarding these processes. The reported results are aligned with the magician's stated goals in scope and magnitude as to suggest the evocation was successful, with realistic results following. Thirlwell's report was submitted in the form of 4 high-resolution images of pages printed from a home computer, apparently taken and uploaded directly to the digital plane for the purposes of dissemination. Because of this medium, the text of the report was manually typed by Alex Nyland. Sir Nyland edited the document for maximal clarity across the diverse groups of ESL, English as a secondary language, speakers which are served by and involved with the activities of the Athenaeum. Considerable care was taken to maximally retain the author's writing voice. This method is an endeavor towards standardization in Athenaeum materials, but this organizational philosophy exists in a process of continuous adjustment. This compounding of Thirlwell's report, then, contains 2 primary documents presented. First is the edited script, followed by the original submission. A complementary document, which includes notes and commentary from a primary steward of the Athenaeum, is also available and will be readily accessible alongside the report. This first report has been pressed for Thirlwell's purposes, should they, or any other approved individual, desire to disseminate the report without the Athenaeum's commentary. These documents, among the first legitimate publications of the Athenaeum, present the first opportunity for the Athenaeum and its participants to engage full academic discourse. For this reason, this report, and its twin documents are regarded with a special significance for the Athenaeum and its mission. They are the first accomplishment for all among who share our common cause. Insofar as it is possible, given the nature of this common cause, the Luminous Order wishes to formally acknowledge the dignity which the magician and his report have bestowed thereupon, and give thanks to the author.
My opus to Great Prince Orobas. Greetings, all. My name is Sean. I've been a ceremonial magician for several years and finally decided to do my first evocation of a Goetic daemon, my choice being Prince Orobas. This here is a full account and testimony of said operation. It all kinda began years ago, studying the Goetia, wondering, thinking, not yet trying, but studying. Reading it over and over and over till I finally came to the conclusion that this was what I always wanted to attempt, and now, I felt ready. I've always been pulled into thought of Great Prince Orobas, although I never attempted to evoke him until now. Life was going great, then COVID-19 hit. It was an absolute onslaught, and I'm sure most of you are feeling this horrific year. My finances were stuck, and I was spiritually unhappy as the environment this year is not conducive to happiness at all. I decided, 2 full moons ago, that this was the time for external help, if any help could be granted. I had exhausted all my mundane options, and I felt that the evocation was appropriate. This wasn't the call of a dabbler, this was the call of absolute necessity. So, okay. Here we go, down the rabbit hole. It's filled with wonder and quite extraordinary things, to say the least. I decided on Prince Orobas, because I'd always been happy with his description. I asked of great Prince Orobas, 1. To not make any spirit harm me, to not allow any spirit to harm me, and to protect me. This is self-explanatory. 2. To bestow great favor. This was really needed at the moment. 3. To give honors and dignities, more on this later. 4. To help me in correcting my path. I definitely needed to correct my path. 5. For instruction in the art of divination. I already had a firm basis in tarot, but I wanted, and needed, more insight. These things are my will. Not everyone needs or wants these things, but I define my own needs. A little background, here, I decided to request a daemon to appear in the likeness of a horse. I made this peculiar choice because I had almost broken my back less than a month prior, by falling off of a horse. Carpe diem. I suppose I was getting back on the old horse, as they say. So here, I made my decision. It was time to get everything together. Ritual materials and configurations. The triangle of art. I made the triangle of art from orange cardboard. Orange is linked to Prince Orobas. I felt really bad about writing the name of Michael in the constraining section of the triangle. You know, the story goes that Michael was the one who stabbed Prince Orobas, and sent him into where he now resides, but I couldn't. I wouldn't stray from the process. So I used the name of Michael for this purpose. Candles. I needed blue candles. This posed quite the conundrum, because I live in a small town in South Africa. With COVID-19 and such, I couldn't really travel to get my supplies. I decided to buy teal-eyed candles and blue food coloring. I warmed the candles on the stove, and was going to add the blue food coloring while the teal-eyeds were partially melted. For the record, melted wax and food coloring do not mix. It exploded, went all over my fingers and burned horribly. I hope and pray that's the only time that happens. Despite all that, the blue coloring did mix into the candles good enough for my purposes. Incense. I saw that Prince Orobas likes cedar. I searched everywhere, but no cedar incense was available locally. I got the idea to look for some old bottles of essential oil that I had packed away in a box somewhere. The people that make these essential oils must have superhuman eyesight, or they must think that I do, because the labels are small and leakage makes every bottle harder to read. I finally found a bottle labeled Ceteris Atla Nica. I searched online and saw that this was cedar. I seriously felt like Archimedes. Eureka! See, what I am trying to impress here is that when you make your decision, you make a commitment to this work, things always seem to strangely, or magically, fall into place. Date moon phase. I wanted to leave nothing to chance, but as chance may have it, the next full moon upcoming fell upon a Thursday. Thursday is Prince Orobas Day. I seriously cannot express how amazing it is, to see these pieces falling into place all around me just as soon as I made my decision. Oracle forecast. I decided to draw a tarot spread about my plan. I did a 10-card Celtic cross spread. When I divined the cards, everything was okay, but a little all over the place. The 10th card, the outcome card, told me what I needed to know. I drew 7, the Chariot sublimation. Success/conqueror, exaltation, vision of unseen energies, guidance of the lower by spirit, and descent of the spirit into the world of manifestation. This swept away any doubts that might have been left in my mind. The ceremony. 1. A ritual bath. This is the point of no return. My heartbeat was going through the roof. I lit the blue candle on the altar and some frankincense. I meditated for 10 to 15 minutes on my intentions, why I arrived at these crossroads, what they were and how to proceed. 2. Ritual movement number 1. I completed the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, LBRP, with full conviction. 3. Ritual movement number 2. I completed the middle pillar ritual, MP, now I am pulling everything into me. I did mantras to get me into a trance state. 4. Ritual movement number 3. I performed the Bornless invocation. The word is not intimidation. Once you're in there is no getting out. There's nothing like this ritual to feel armed to the teeth with power. 5. Ritual movement number 4. Rael invocation 6. Ritual movement number 5. Shem angel invocation. I spent 3 minutes vibrating the name and psalm, as a mantra, in Latin. 7. Ritual movement number 6. I lit the incense and candles on the triangle of art. I cast a salt circle and consecrated it. 8. Ritual movement number 7. I petitioned Gabriel to hermetically unseal the gate of Yezid. 9. Ritual movement number 8. I turned the layman over. It had a pentagram of Solomon on the opposite side. I contemplated the sigil of Prince Orobas for a couple of minutes. 10. Achievement of evocation. Ritual movement number 9. I incanted, Prince Orobas, ends while rocking forwards and backwards. I felt even more deeply immersed in the ritual. Then, reality shifted. If I can try to explain it to you, it felt like taking LSD. I haven't felt those effects for years, but there it was coming out from some recess of my subconscious mind. I felt my kundalini rising, as in the come-up of a sacramental LSD experience. The energy rose, crawling up my spine to my head, and then bam. I was centered in my magic circle, but everything outside in the triangle, with the smoke, the shimmer of the candlelight, the atmosphere changed dramatically. It was the awe of beauty and of fear, all blended into one. I had achieved evocation of great Prince Orobas. I welcomed Prince Orobas with all my might and gave him thanks. I didn't see or hear him, but I know that he was there. Inside of the triangle of art, I gave my requests, and I said if all were to come to manifestation, I would shout the prince's name from the rooftops, of which the internet is the best model. 11. Ritual movement number 10. I asked if the spirit understood my requests 3 times, and I got positive feedback. I compare it to receiving a yes answer telepathically. It's hard to explain, but you likely know the sensation I am talking about. 12. Ritual movement number 11. What came next is a very important part for me, and I think it's important for all of you. I incanted don't harm myself, and anyone, and anything that we love, hold dear, know or have seen in this existence. I incanted this 3 times and paused, as in ritual movement number 10, for confirmation. I got my confirmation and was happy. 13. Conclusion of ceremony. Ritual movement number 12. I gave the license to depart. Time is hectic in ritual. You can feel the energy, and know when it has gone, but the human mind must wonder, did all that really just transpire? After 10 minutes, I realized I couldn't just live in the magic circle forever, so I closed up the temple. The results, and reflections from the magician, I felt that the ceremony had gone well. I went outside and stood in the grass, without shoes. I did this as a grounding exercise, to wind down after the ritual. I also made food and tea, and went to bed at the end of my day. The next morning, I woke up to hectic thoughts. Did it work? What will the repercussions of the work be? I eventually calmed down, and went for a walk on the beach. I was trying to gather myself. At work the next day, I felt like I was being guided by something out of this world. It was hard to explain, but amazing nonetheless. The presence spoke to me, telling me, don't do that, do this. Speak like this, sell like this. Success. I went on to have 2 of the best months in sales that I had made in a long time. 2 bestow great favors tick. Author did not include any text in this section. 3 help with path and divination tick gone in leaps and bounds. 3 days after the ceremony, I almost had a spiritual breakdown. The new insights and energetic downloads were nearly too much. That night, I prayed for guidance from my higher self, and received answers immediately where I was going wrong, etc. Remember, I said that I almost broke my back in that horse riding accident. Well, I hadn't done any exercise since then, just a lot of painkillers and feeling sorry for myself. So, these emotions and insights came flooding into me. Too much magic. Not enough me time, if you know what I mean. I see now that there has to be balance in everything, the mundane and magical worlds, otherwise we'll lose ourselves a bit. So, I got back out there, although it was very painful, into exercising and reinvigorating my life on the mundane plane. My tarot readings went through the roof. I understand everything and the daily readings don't lie. For dignities and status tick during this period, I had attained a year of sobriety, and people were congratulating me left, right and center. Everyone was so happy for me, my sons, family, friends, and myself. I felt amazing that so many people cared and still do care about me, and my life. 5. To protect me and make no spirit harm me. Tick on yesterday's blue moon, I evoke Duke Bune. The power and conviction I felt going into the ritual, feeling, and knowing the protection from Prince Orobas, it was astounding, to say the least. The Goetic nobles never imposed on my mind or spirit. But I knew they had my back. Closing remarks from the magician. If this opus has interested you, and you like what I have done here, stay tuned. I intend to produce an account of the evocation of Duke Bune. I leave you now with an expression of my gratitude and happiness, that I achieved what I had hoped to from doing this working. This is an incredible daemon and spirit to work with. Beginners are welcome. Thank you, great Prince Orobas, for all that you have done and achieved for me in my little piece of the world. This brings me to a song by Elvis, Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. I leave now for the beach to burn your sigil and set you free. Cheers for now. I hope this concludes our dealings, Prince Orobas. Be mindful to come whenever I call thee.
260, Flame Eternal. I am called Alex Cernylan, and I am the one who created the copy for S. Thirlwell's report. I did this to standardize the language for as many English as a secondary language, or ESL, speakers as possible, and to make uniform the formatting of grammar and characters. I made as few edits as possible, and tried my best to ensure that S. Thirlwell's voice was not lost. Despite all the formality of appearance here, the Athenaeum is a family as much as it is a nexus of education. I want all sorts of experiences to be told, and voices heard. In rewriting the words from those 4 pictures files, I came to appreciate S. Thirlwell's spellwork. I noticed some talking points and developed a few theories while rendering my own analysis. I wanted to present them separately from the report itself, and this is the reason for this second document. Here are my thoughts about the ritual, and musings on relevant topics within ceremonial magic and the left-hand path.
Prince Orobas is a Jovian, Jupiter, spirit, corresponding to Sephirah number 4, Chesed and or Gamchikot, upon the Kabbalistic trees. The magician burns blue candles and frankincense, mentions the use of cedar oil, and uses orange parchment, specifically cardboard, to construct the triangle of art, and indicates a relationship between Prince Orobas and the Archangel Michael as contextually relevant for the ceremony. No less than 5. Ceremonies minor are executed as components of the operation, and upon summoning Prince Orobas the magician presents 5. Terms of contract to the spirit. The magician reports fulfillment of all 5. Terms of contract. Of particular note is a summoning of Duke Bune as a control model to test the parameters of the most empirically measurable term of the contract: protection from spirits. These correspondences are consistent with the Solomonic standards for Jupiter as regards the candles, incense and the triangle of art. Cedar oil is corresponded for Chesed in A. Crowley's Liber 777, however, the same text indicates frankincense as a soul/sun, correspondence, threading to Sephirah number 6, Tifereth and or /Thagirion. These two Sephirah are connected by the path Yod, path scale number 20, which corresponds to 9 the Hermit in the Tarot. A general interpretation of the imagery of 9 the Hermit, as well as a mutual consideration of the generally accepted influences of Chesed and Tifereth, suggests that these elements were chosen to tune the energetic expression of Prince Orobas towards higher probability of abundant success, of both a material and immaterial nature. The successful aspecting of this tuning of the demon could account for the magician's interval of substantially increased productivity in the magician's mundane work, interpersonal relationships and self-concept. This could also account for the protection which Prince Orobas granted against the adverse influences of Duke Bune during the subsequent summoning. The ruling spheres of the two demonic nobles are directly connected by Kaf, path scale number 21, potentially suggesting an increased harmony between spirits of Sephirah which are directly connected by singular paths. The use of orange cardboard for the triangle of art is irregular per Solomonic standards, but given the reported success and evidenced consistency of the magician's spell work, it is presumed either effective or, at the least, not to the magician's detriment. Orange complements the blue color used to identify Sephirah number 4, Chesed and or Gam Chikot, so in this way tuning the color of the triangle of art may in fact fortify the securing or binding of any spirit, or provide a contrast surface against which to materialize more clearly. In such a situation, it may be necessary to change the red components of the triangle of art to be blue, as to flash against the orange surfaces. In the same manner, it is possible that the magician chose the color orange to indicate an additional thread in addition to that between Sephirah number 4 and 6. From either Chesed or Tifereth, there are only 3 options for color tuning in this way: Sephirah number 5, 7, and 8, which are Gebera, Netzach and Hod. To examine all options, 4 paths must be examined: Taith, Kaf, Nun, and Ayin, path scales number 19, 21, 24, and 26. Nun is quickly eliminated, given that its corresponding card is 13 Death, and this is directly antithetical to the magician's expressed goals, as are most traditional applications of Ayin, except possibly as a novel means of veneration unto the devil. Taith and Kaf, corresponding to cards 7/11 Strength/Lust and X the Will of Fortune respectively, are more likely candidates for this sort of tuning, because they align with the magician's goals. This example illustrates how there is more than one means to attain a goal with regards to the Hermetic race system, especially when the energy is tuned methodically. If none of the above is the case for the incorporation of the color orange, there is a consideration as regards the color's association with the specific spirit, Prince Orobas. This is not mentioned in Solomon's Keys, and appears to be a novel correspondence. This correspondence appears to come from a consensus among certain sets of magicians who have primarily sourced, and seeded, their materials via transmission to the digital plane. A website called Black Witch Coven, and a weblog index at scarletrosa.tumblr.com cite this correspondence, and they are top search results for both Orobas orange and Orobas color. This connection between Prince Orobas and the color appears to have originated, oddly enough, from the use of the prince's name to denote a race of griffin-like creatures who appear in a video game franchise known as Dragon Quest. The beasts named for the prince are blue, with a beard of a light red and orange hue per description. This modern correspondence presents a dilemma only for the most inflexible of traditionalist practitioners. It cannot be affirmed that neither the illustrator of the Orobi nor whomever devoted the image to Prince Orobas, intentionally, as an idol. So even if this is an absurd posit, it cannot be disproven without first attaining full provenience for the correspondence. The term provenience encompasses all relevant aspects of the point of origin for an artifact, as the word is applied in archaeological science here. In the occult sciences, it is used to refer to the precise point of origin for a declared correspondence. Without precise provenience, the attainment of which necessitates intimate knowledge of the mind and heart of the magician or magicians who first generated the correspondence, the legitimacy of novel correspondences cannot be denied. It is the position of the luminous order, in accord with the Athenaeum's espoused philosophy, that novel correspondences must only be evaluated in a holistic manner, which necessarily involves assessing the magician's past and current work, future aspirations, and apparent work/study ethic. In this situation, S. Thirlwell's intentionality and evident competence suggest the correspondence was sufficiently intentional, sufficiently creative, and apparently effective, and thereby, in the absence of evidence of a misfire or botched ceremony, that the modernity of the thread to the color orange has not diminished the Solomonic purity for which the magician endeavored, or, at the very least, that it did not hinder the ceremony or diminish its effects. The magician S. Thirlwell hails from South Africa, and uses some phrases which may be colloquial speech or personal eccentricities. The translator, who is from the United States of America, could not determine the meaning of the phrase loop dub, which S. Thirlwell repeats throughout the document. It initially appeared to be a reference to the ritual bath, but persisted throughout the report. This is retained in the original images which constitute S. Thirlwell's submission, for consideration of the reader and to retain the integrity of the original submission. The word tick is used, either as a consistent misspelling of trick or a means of referring to the 5 expressed goals of the ceremony. In this context, a tick appears to indicate that the phrase in question, such as dignities and status tick, is a naming convention for individual magical conceits, solidly defined terms of the magical contract or demonic pact. It is also possible that the author meant to communicate what may alternately phrased checkmark to indicate the success of these conceits. This is not explained, and may indicate any number of things. S. Thirlwell's report contained formatting, to delineate sections of the ceremonial arc as well as to report back on his enumerated contractual terms. The formatting added to the section "The Ceremony" was added by the editor, as an indication of our forward intention with Athenaeum Publications to increase organization and uniformity of magical reports and records within our materials. This is done with the intent to create a uniform experience in examining Athenaeum materials, as our conviction is that doing this will make the materials more approachable and easy to read, reference and cross-compare. As more magicians' reports are added to the Athenaeum, it will become increasingly necessary to keep records organized. It may one day be possible to sort the records by reporting magician, by spirit reportedly summoned, and even by subset of magical activities. This is what is referred to in the language, employed throughout our publications, by our use of the words department and ministry. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, love is the law.
Note from the editor, S. Thirlwell clarified these two indications after reviewing the first full draft of the manuscript. Lube dub is an onomatopoeic expression of the sound of a racing heart, as with thump or done, and tick was used to refer to the requests which were received and fulfilled. The editor declined to comment when asked why he had not thought to ask before pressing the first full draft to PDF format, and left the Athenaeum in a hurry.
This material was compounded and distributed in conjunction with the Athenaeum, an institution working in conjunction with the Luminous Order Loop 3. It may be freely distributed provided its contents are not augmented or truncated, especially in such situations where either this message or the star of the Athenaeum would be disturbed. Contact may be made at luminousorder3@gmail.com. luminousorder3@gmail.com. We continuously strive for academic rigor in discussing the nature of the subtle forces, and what they may do.